Pacers snapped their 16-game lose streak as they beat the Orlando Magic. I'll go over the game a little bit, what players shined, and just what does it mean for the team for the rest of this season after snapping this losing streak. And then I'm going to dive into Ivica Zubac's injury, how he has a fractured rib, and what could it mean for the team going forward and going into next season when we're ready to try to compete and win. And then I wanted to end this episode on a report that came out from Jake Fisher talking about how if the Pacers do end up getting the number one overall pick, they may surprise people and take Cam Boozer number one overall. I'm going to dive into that article and give my thoughts and opinions on that, and just maybe it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world if we do get a Cam Boozer. And you guys are just going to have to hear me out on that one, Pacer Nation, but all coming up next on the Pacer Pulse podcast. What is up, Pacer Nation? Welcome to the Pacer Pulse podcast, the heartbeat of Indiana basketball. I'm your host, Sean Trader, and today, guys, I wanted to start off this episode by saying how great it is that we finally broke our losing streak. Yes, we're pulling for losses here, Pacer Nation. If you're a Pacer fan, you want all the losses you can get for the rest of this season because they're just meaningless games. So what's the point of winning meaningless games? But it's nice that we didn't extend our losing streak any further. We stopped it at 16. We beat the Orlando Magic 128 to 126. And unfortunately, I didn't get to watch this game because it's blacked out in my area. Now that I live in Florida, I'm not able to watch this game. So I just had to kind of go over like the stats, and just like anybody else, if they're just looking at stats, didn't watch the game, but just going off the stats, and I saw that Siakam, he had a 37-point game, one of his best games of the whole entire season, especially after he's missed a lot of time, especially after the All-Star break, which isn't really surprising to anybody because we know that we're going to sit him out, we're going to rest him now. We kind of achieved the ultimate goal with Siakam where we were just trying to get him into the All-Star game, right? It's not really about winning games after the All-Star break, especially after we traded the pick with the protections to get Zubac. We all kind of knew this was the direction that the Pacers were going to take it, I think. And I don't think anybody's upset about it. And there's only one thing I would say I'm upset about with Siakam sitting. And I'll get into that once I get to Zubac a little bit and his injury. But amazing game from Siakam. I'm going to have to go back and watch the highlights, hopefully, and be able to see how he looked. But then Nesmith as well. He had a 19-point game, shot very efficiently. It's good to see that he's kind of come on towards the end of this season, even though it's been a rough shooting season for Nesmith, but he's been in and out of the lineup with injuries and different things like that, not playing next to Halliburton. That's really hurt his impact on the team this year, and just, it's going to be all right next year, and you always have full faith and confidence in Nesmith because of what he's shown already throughout his career with the Pacers. I know he's going to be okay, but it was great to see him have another good shooting night and just kind of buck that trend that he was kind of going down this season where he just was having a pretty inefficient season. And then Nembhard, he had 13 points, 7 rebounds, 14 assists. I mean, solid all-around game. He only shot 9 shots, but shot 5 of 9. And he was a +4. So you like what you saw in his minutes, I'm sure, too, if you watched the game. And then TJ had his typical impact off the bench, 13 points, 6 rebounds. 6 assists. Jarris Walker had a 20-point game, 5 rebound, 2 assist game. And then shot 7 of 13, 2 of 5 from 3. So really efficient shooting night from Jarris. Was a -2 ±, but Siakam was a -1. So they about broke even. So they didn't hurt the team as much and didn't impact it into great lengths, I guess I would say. But you'll take that any day. Walker continues to build on that impressive run he's been on the last 2 to 3 months. And like I said, I've said this on multiple podcasts before, Pacer Nation. I got to see him sustain this for the rest of the season. And he really has, to what I've seen. Yes, he's had a few duds here and there, but all in all, you've liked what you've seen from Jarris and the progression of how awful he was to the first 3 or so months of this season to kind of the last 2 to 3 months or so. So you really hope he can end it on a high note. And I'll dive into some more topics as I put out more episodes here of what I think Jarris, his fit would be with this team going forward. And a lot of the factors depend on this draft pick as well, and maybe it doesn't matter even outside of that pick, but there's going to have to be a lot of talk and conversation about Jarris, especially going into the offseason, as we may face the same kind of conundrum that we did with Benedict Mathurin, and why we traded him, kind of capitalized on his value, which we got Zubac at least, so we at least made it worth it trading Mathurin, but I'll dive into that in more later episodes. But I just wanted to highlight some guys. Even though Ben Caro had like a 39-point game, 4 rebounds, 6 assists game, he was absolutely lights out this game. And even though he went off, we held the rest of their team really from not really being that impactful. I mean, Tristan Da Silva had 17. I've always liked him as a player. He's a pretty solid player, but Desmond Bain, 17, didn't really impact the game too much. I mean, he had 6 rebounds, 7 assists, but they were missing Jalen Suggs, so you got to count that in. And the Magic had kind of been reeling for a little bit, but like I said, at the kind of before I dived into a lot of this, it's just nice to see that we finally snapped that losing streak. Since we beat the Magic 128 to 126, we only had 9 turnovers this game. We had 20 points off turnovers, which is huge. That probably helped almost determine this game, to be honest, because they only had 7 points off turnovers. We beat them on bench points, 32 to 30. Points in the paint. I mean, it's expected. We usually get beat in this category, but they had 64 points in the paint. We had 50. But I would really say that the rebounding was even too, 35 to 36, but it was probably like we shot well from the field, but so did they. But I think it was those points off turnovers that was like main difference in this game. So that's all I'm really going to cover and recap in that game, guys. But I just thought it was nice that we snapped the losing streak. And if you heard my last podcast where I talked about, is this the worst season in our Pacers franchise history? Absolutely. And I think it's going to end that way. And the fact that we had our worst losing streak in franchise history earlier in the season at like 13, and then we beat that later on in the season. It was like us and the Wizards before this game were on a 16-game losing streak. Both teams were. So I think that's the first time that's ever happened in NBA history too, where two teams were on 16-game losing streaks. And a lot of that was like, what do you want to call it? Self-fabricated, Pacer Nation, where we were actively trying to lose games. I don't care what they say. Whatever lineups we had out there truly was indicative of that notion that we were trying to lose. But it's just nice to see that we snapped it. It didn't extend any further than that, and there's no way we could beat that losing streak the rest of this year because we don't have that many games left. So hopefully we don't see those kind of losing streaks for a very long time, Pacer Nation, after this season. And let's hope we just got it out of our system is what all I'm hoping for. But if you haven't heard that last podcast where I do dive into, has this been our worst season ever? I compared it to our previous worst season in franchise history was like the 84-85 season when we won like 22 games. And that was back in, like I said, 84-85. That was over 40 years ago, guys. So go back and listen to that episode if you haven't checked it out yet. And I kind of make my argument as to why we should get the #1 overall pick this year. But after recapping that game, guys, I wanted to dive into Ivica Zubac and his injury. After only playing 5 games with the Pacers, guys, he suffers a fractured rib. And obviously, that's pretty painful. That's not going to be easy to play with. And he's out for the rest of the season. So, what really, I think, was really unfortunate with this injury, guys, and I think all of us, Pacer Nation, as fans, can agree, we didn't get to see Zubac play with Siakam. And I think that was the biggest thing that I wanted to see. We only really got to see him play with Nembhard about 1 or 2 games. I think it was only 1, if I remember right. Really, the only consistent starter he got to play with was Aaron Nesmith. Outside of that, I mean, he played with TJ McConnell, which getting that chemistry would be nice too, because he's obviously going to play with TJ some, whatever lineups they determine next year when we're trying to win. But I can only imagine he's going to play with TJ some games. So that was good to see. And then playing next to Obi Toppin some too. But you get what I'm saying. Like the main guys like Nembhard, Siakam, Nesmith. Obviously, he can't play with Halliburton right now. Those are going to be the main guys he's playing with, and it's just unfortunate. We didn't get to see how he was going to fit next to Siakam because obviously, like even whenever he came with the team, like his first game with the team and then the 5 games he played, he strictly played in the dunker spot, Zubac did. And we kind of heard otherwise during his introductory press conference, that he may play in the corner a lot more. And maybe they were waiting to use that whenever Siakam came back. But unfortunately, we didn't get to see that because he suffered this injury, guys. And that's the unfortunate aspect because I would have liked to see what type of offensive scheme we were going to use whenever him and Siakam were sharing the floor. Were we going to have Siakam be out more and just keep Zubac in the dunker spot? Were we going to see Zubac play in the corner more, shooting more threes possibly? If Siakam was playing next to him, because we know Siakam likes to operate in the high post area and in the low post, of course, too. So I think that's just the unfortunate part, guys. We weren't going to get a full evaluation of his fit and just how we need to maneuver things going into next season. So I think that was really the unfortunate aspect. It was great to see him play for 5 games, and honestly, he made it exciting again for me. I kind of lost any sort of excitement watching the team here the last few weeks, to be honest, Pacer Nation. I'm not sure how you guys feel as fans too, if you've kind of felt the same way, but it's just kind of been a drag because we know we're not really going out to win games, guys. We know it's all about maximizing our odds for this draft pick. And I think we're all just waiting for May 13th, or I think whatever day it is, for the NBA lottery to happen to see if we're going to keep this pick or not. Then we can kind of move forward into the next building phase of our team in the offseason. But I don't think I'm alone in that, Pacer Nation. These games have been a drag, and we just know that we're not going in to win them. There's not much to really take away from the games right now. I guess just to, like, see Jarrett's playing more and like some of these other younger guys, but it's not really very exciting for me to watch. So he made it at least exciting because we were getting to see how his impact was going to be imprinted on this team going forward. And that's, like I said, the unfortunate part is we weren't going to see it in full formation with him only playing 1 game in Nimhard, 1 or 2 games in Nimhard, only not playing at all with Siakam. Obviously, not ever playing with Halliburton. And I guess he got to play with Walker a lot too, but he's going to be coming off the bench next year. So it just wasn't a good evaluation of how we were going to fit him in with this team. So that was the unfortunate part. I did like what I saw. I was very interested, like, with how they were using him as a defender, where he was really being used as like hedging a lot of screens. He wasn't just immediately dropping back. He was really hedging on screens. So maybe they have a lot of a belief in his ability to move his feet. And I actually saw that a few times where he was able to like stay in front of some guys on the perimeter. Granted, it's not perfect, but it's a lot better than what I expected, Pacer Nation. And the fact he was able to get out on closeouts on threes from some perimeter players as well was very surprising. His rebounding wasn't really at the level you would expect just yet, but he's coming off an ankle injury, so maybe that was holding him back some too. And really, his last game he played, where he had like 18 points, 8 rebounds, is his best one. He didn't shoot well, but you saw the impact already, where he was commanding double teams and triple teams inside when he would get the ball. And his passing was like a lot better than I would have ever expected, guys. I knew he wasn't a bad passer by any means, but I didn't expect him to be able to make passes the way he was. So is he Nikola Jokic out there? Of course not, Pacer Nation, but he's just a better passer than I would have ever thought he was going to be, and it's very encouraging to see how his fit may even like grow more as he plays more with the starting lineup next season into the offseason whenever they start working. I'm sure they're all going to work together in the offseason and really gear up for this next season. So even though we're going to miss this evaluation time with in games, just in game reps, at least they're going to have that camaraderie in the offseason, and I think they're going to really try to gear up and be ready to go from the get-go in the offseason. In the offseason. And I do believe that, especially with Halliburton coming back, they're probably going to try to ease him back in and really get used to playing with him again. So it's just, I thought there was a lot of encouraging takeaways. I loved like his dribble handoffs with a lot of the guys, the ability to create space off those screens, and then be a guy that can catch the ball inside. If like it gives like the screener or the guy going through the screen an option to either dump it off into the Zubac or take their own shot, or at least kick it out to an open 3-point shooter. So I think we saw a lot of positives in that aspect too, guys. So like I said, it was just really unfortunate to see the injury, but all we want is for him to be fully healthy going into the next season when we're trying to win again. And I think all of us, Pacer Nation, would gladly take that over forcing him to play the rest of this season and just see how his fit would be with this team. Let's get him right for next season, guys. Let's get him ready to play next to Halliburton, Neesmith, Nimhard, Siakam. They have another offseason of getting better, working on their games even more, working on the things they need to improve on. Zubac is going to do that as well. He's probably going to work on his 3-point shot a lot more too in the offseason. And maybe, and like he said, guys, during that introductory press conference, he said that he believes he can take that shot. He just never has been allowed the green light, essentially, to do so. So I'll be very interested to see if that's going to be caked in or like baked into the offensive system going into next season. So then I wanted to touch on my last segment of this podcast, guys. I wanted to talk on the latest rumor coming out from the Pacer camp. And this was reported by Jake Fisher, guys. So it's a very credible source per the Steinline, wherever he reported this at. And I want to say this too before I get into the report. Jake Fisher also reported a lot of the news about us being interested in Zubac and us being the front runners, excuse me, to trade for Zubac before the trade deadline. So I just wanted to say this because he may have some credibility with the team and what we may be thinking as of right now in terms of just our philosophy or whatever direction we're trying to go in. He could very well be plugged in to our team somehow. So that's why I wanted to kind of mention that at the top too, to maybe add more credibility to this. And maybe it's not just a rumor, but it is a rumor. So we can only take it at surface level. But I did want to mention that. But this was reported by Jake Fisher that he said that rival teams believe that Boozer would be the Indiana Pacers' preferred number one overall pick if we were to land the number one overall pick. So I think that we would really shake up the draft, is what they're trying to say, or like predicting that if we get the number one overall pick, maybe we wouldn't take the Bonsa, maybe we wouldn't take Peterson, maybe in fact we would take Cam Boozer. And he also stated in that article as well that the Pacers ideally really like the fit of Cam Boozer next to Siakam and Zubac. And that's why they really are leaning towards Cam Boozer, essentially. So, it doesn't make sense if you have the number one overall pick to draft a player specifically for fit. So that is always the biggest concern I think you could ever have with your franchise that you're a fan of, is that if you get a pick in that position, that you don't just hope that the team drafts for fit. And I think if you've always got a top like 1 or 2 pick in this draft, or any draft, excuse me, you always go for upside, maybe to a certain extent, but like DeBonta has kind of proven himself to be a high upside player, of course, and he's proven it with production in college too. So he's not just like let's go with like a Hasheem Thabeet, if you guys remember him, where he was like, I think the 2nd overall pick. Nothing but potential. Didn't really have production, but was all potential. So you just see that like at least DeBonta has a high upside ceiling, and he fulfilled that a lot in college too, where he just had incredible games, 40-point games, passing games where he showed a lot of playmaking vision as well. Maybe defense hasn't really been there, but he's rebounded the ball well too. He's just shown a lot of a promise, and just he's kind of at least providing the production to fit alongside the upside that people project him to kind of like at least hit, hopefully, in the NBA. And I know, Pacer Nation, that all of y'all, or most of us, are probably fans of getting DeBonta if we were to get the top overall pick. So maybe this is a worrisome in your eyes that we would be interested in Cam Boozer. And it's always concerning whenever you hear a team talking about fit alongside players. So that's kind of like where I'm at, where I'm like, well, if we get the number one overall pick, you cannot worry about fit, guys. You can't. You have to go with upside. You can't go with just fit. And I do think Cam Boozer has some upside as well. Still, obviously, he's not a finished product. He's even younger than DeBonsa and Peterson, I'm pretty sure. So he has a lot more room to grow into his game, into his body even more so. Yeah, he's 6'9", 250. He's already got the NBA size pretty much that you could ever want out of a player. So he's got other areas where he can at least improve on, hopefully. You hope he can improve his athleticism. Maybe that means he has to lose a little bit of weight. I don't know what that necessarily means or how you improve that, but maybe there's ways for him to actually work on that and improve in those areas. But you would almost say, and I think a lot of what I've heard from draft experts like Sam Facini and some different guys like that, where they've said that they believe DeBonta has the most fixable issues of these guys, because it's not his physical gifts, right? It's more so like his shooting from 3-point range, and then maybe like not being so ball dominant. But I think he was just tasked to do that with the BYU team that he was on. That's just kind of the role he was played in. But I could see where a lot of Pacer Nation may be concerned with that kind of article. But also, I have to paint this picture as well, guys, where Boozer's been one of the best college players in the last 10, 15 years. I mean, I think that's pretty evident with his production. I mean, he's averaging over 20 points a game, over 10 rebounds a game, 4.5 assists a game. But that is no slouch stat line from any freshman. I'm sure you could compare that to all of the great freshmen that have came out over the last 10 plus years, and his like stats would probably be right on par with that or even better. So if you're basing off just that, yeah, maybe he doesn't have the high athletic upside as a player that you would like to see, but he's obviously highly skilled. He's a very skilled player inside. He has proven to be a good shooter in college, guys. He's shooting 40% from 3. he can do some things off the ball. And I do think his defense is a little better than what he's been given credit for. Yeah, maybe he doesn't have like the athletic upside of like a Debonsa to be a top defender in the NBA. But that's all hypothetical with Debonsa. He hasn't shown that in college at all to be like a great defender. I think Boozer has actually shown to be a better defender already than Debonsa. And I think that's pretty evident from just what I've seen through highlights and different things like that in his game. He's already proven to be a better defender than Debonsa so far. And that doesn't mean Debonsa can't be a better defender than Boozer in the future, but I think Boozer has a better understanding of where to be on the court, where to be off ball, on ball. And I think he has the size inside to really body up down low against some bigger players too. He does have a longer wingspan as well. And who knows? This guy is so young. He can still grow, guys. Who knows? What if he grows to be 6'10 or 11? Even at that size, that's incredible size. So you just never know. He could grow into his body even more so. You just never know, guys. And we saw it happen with other guys like Giannis, where he was like 6'9", grew to 7 foot. Is Cam Boozer going to be like that? Maybe not, but if he grows to at least even 6'10", that's a pretty big dude who can actually play some small ball like 5. I think he can now a little bit in limited doses. Not saying it would be like something you always go to, but he gives you that optionality. So when they said fit next to Siakam and Zubac, that really got me believing that they do believe that he can play small ball next to Siakam, but also play like this hardcore bully ball with Zubac in the starting 5 as well, or within certain lineups, right? So imagine a front line of Cam Boozer and Zubac. That is two massive guys. I mean, that is going to be a tough interior to go through, especially on the defensive end, guys, and just rebounding wise. My goodness, like it would be hard to imagine us not getting just about every rebound out there. Yes, it sounds great on paper and theoretically, so you'd have to see it play out in real life, but I could see the vision the Pacers are imagining. And I do think Cam Boozer can actually guard out on the perimeter just a little bit, guys. Obviously he's going to struggle against the elite guards out there, the guys that can really move their feet, but I could see why they like the vision of it, and the fact that he has proven to be a good shooter would fit well next to Zubac as well. And then even next to Siakam as well, where if they believe that, hey, Boozer can play small ball 5 next to Siakam, the same way we were trying to play Furphy at the 5 or Obi Toppin, I just can't see why Boozer can't do that as well. Even though he's not as athletic, I do think he provides other things that like an Obi Toppin and Furphy can't. Like they can't guard down low the same way Boozer is probably going to be able to. They don't have the same strength. They don't have the same rebounding. I mean, I know Furphy's proven to be a solid rebounder, but still, Boozer's light years ahead of Furphy and Obi Toppin as a rebounder. He's still a good shooter. He's a better shooter than Furphy. And it's to be determined if he's going to be a better shooter than Toppin in the NBA. So we have to wait to see. But he's already shown in college to be a better shooter than what we all expected, probably. So you could see a small ball lineup of like a Cam Boozer, Siakam, Neesmith, Nembhard, and Halliburton, and get really excited about that because that is so much talent, so much passing out there, guys. Because I haven't even got to this part either, where Cam Boozer, an extremely gifted passer. I mean, 4.5 assists per game in college at the power forward position. I mean, and he's got those Kevin Love-esque outlet passes too that are just, it fits into the way we like to play. And so I could see why they would be so enamored with Cam Boozer, guys. I do. And I'm of the ilk, and this is my opinion right now, guys, is that as long as we get a top 4 pick and get to keep the pick, I almost do not care who we take. That's kind of like where I've gotten with this whole draft thing. If we can get Caleb Wilson or Cam Boozer or Debonsa or Peterson, I would be overjoyed, guys. And I think that's how we should all feel about this Pacer Nation. Would it be awesome to get the number 1 overall pick because we never have? Of course. But doesn't mean it's the end all be all if we don't. Of course not, guys. Adding any of the, and it's especially because of this draft this year, adding any of those guys to this roster right now. I mean, we could be potential powerhouses in the Eastern Conference if that happens. Especially if Halliburton comes back off his Achilles, is pretty close to being the same player. I mean, we've seen Tatum come back already off his Achilles, and he's looked pretty good. I mean, obviously he's breaking off some rust, but he's looked good, guys. So I know players are different. They're going to recover in different ways, but I think that's highly encouraging to see a player like Tatum, who suffered the same injury, of course, come back and still perform at the highest level that he has. And he's way taller than Halliburton, of course, and even Kevin Durant when he came back from his. So you would think the taller players are going to have a harder time coming back from those kind of injuries. Well, Halliburton, he's always been lighter. Yes, he's packed on more weight. He said that a few times already to kind of add more bulk to his game to where he can finish inside more, which I think is going to be encouraging. And maybe we do kind of edit our philosophy a little bit on offense where we don't play as fast. And maybe getting Zubac kind of signals that where, hey, we've seen we're playing hardcore fast like we were last year and going into our finals run. Doing that for a full season really put a lot of wear and tear on our guys. So maybe they see us slowing down just a little bit and at least still having that ability to play extremely fast if we want and just have that optionality. Maybe that's what the team's trying to go with a little more with some of these moves and with the idea of getting Cam Boozer. So this is just me thinking out loud, guys. And I'm of the opinion of, like I said, if you get a top 4 pick, no matter what, I'm happy. I don't care who we almost take. So if we do take a Cam Boozer, if we do take a Peterson, a DeBonce, or Caleb Wilson, I'm of the opinion that I would take any of them and be absolutely overjoyed. So that's kind of where I'm at, but that's where, like I said from the beginning of this topic, like whenever I started talking about this report, I do get worried about drafting for fit, but I do think it's kind of different this year because I do think that you have at least three different guys, and I'm not counting Caleb Wilson, even though I think he's almost on this sort of fringe, like he's on the very fringes of this top 3, but I do think if you get any of these guys, you're getting a guy that you could build your franchise with, or at least around, or at least be a top 2 guy on your team moving forward. So I do believe in that, and I do think that that's why this year is so much different, even if you want to consider fit with any of these guys. And maybe that's what separates in most front offices' minds, the fit. So like maybe a team's like, hey, DeBonta fits what we need the most, or Peterson fits what we need the most, or Cam Boozer does. Maybe this is one of those few years where you can actually consider fit and not worry about missing out on like a franchise potential type of guy. Because those top 3 guys are that special. I mean, each one of those guys would easily go number 1 in almost any draft if it was outside of this draft. And that's what's crazy about this draft is that you're probably going to get a franchise guy with a top 3 to 4 pick. Because I honestly do believe like maybe Caleb Wilson, I do believe Caleb Wilson almost falls into that category. So I'm not trying to go off too much of a tangent here, guys. I'm just saying that's my opinion on all this. And like after hearing this report and this article, I would like to know what your guys' opinion is, Pacer Nation. Let me know in the YouTube comments. What do you think? What do you think about this report from Jake Fisher that the Pacers may shake things up in the draft, apparently, and take Cam Boozer number 1 overall if they get the pick? Let me know what you guys think about Cam Boozer overall. Would you be happy with getting him? How would you feel if he was taken over an AJ DeBonce or a Peterson or whoever? Just let me know in the YouTube comments. We'd love to hear your guys' opinions. And also, I wanted to kind of present this other idea too. What if we're so locked in on taking Cam Boozer? What if we're just so dead set on taking Cam Boozer that no matter what pick, we want Cam Boozer? So what if we do get the number 1 overall pick? And what if we talk to a team, let's say the 2nd overall pick or the 3rd overall pick? What if we get some insight into where Boozer may fall? What if we were able to trade the number 1 overall pick and trade back? Let's say to the number 2 pick or the number 3 pick and still get Cam Boozer regardless, and give the team the number 1 overall pick, and they give us a little extra incentives because it's not often you trade the number 1 overall pick, guys. But we saw this happen, guys, with the Boston Celtics when they had the number 1 overall pick and they traded back. They could have took Markelle Fultz number 1, but they didn't. They traded back and drafted Jason Tatum at number 3. I'm pretty sure I'm remembering that right. So if I'm wrong in the YouTube comments, let me know and correct me. But I'm pretty sure that's what happened, guys. So what if this is almost like our moment, like the Celtics did that year? What if we do that and we get some extra assets? What if we get another player that adds to our rotation or some more picks, and we add a Cam Boozer to our team, and he ends up being, I'm not going to say he's going to be like Cam, or excuse me, he's not going to end up being like a Tatum, of course, but like, what if he ends up being that level of impact player for us, and it ends up working out for us in that way? So I wanted to present another different idea to you guys. Let me know what you guys think about that as well. What if we ended up trading back and still got Cam Boozer and other draft capital? Maybe we get another pick in the first round. However, it would work, guys. Let me know what you guys think of that idea. If you think that that would be something worth doing if you're the Pacers and worth considering. Because I wouldn't be upset with that idea at all, especially in this draft, guys, where it's really, you're splitting hairs almost between these top prospects. So let me know what you think in the YouTube comments, like I said, about all this. What do you think about Zubac's time with us, guys? We've got to see 5 games. What did you think about his fit? And just what do you think about this draft? Just let me know in the YouTube comments. And also, if you guys please could leave a like, comment, subscribe on YouTube. Helps the channel grow a lot. Helps me be able to grow this platform and put out more episodes for you guys. And if you could please leave 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you listen, guys, it would be much appreciated. It really helps me grow this podcast. I want to make it the #1 fan podcast out there, guys. So I can't do it without your help, that's for sure. And I want to build a community out of this, and that's my ultimate goal. So I just, please, if you could leave your best reviews, it would mean a lot. And then I'm going to try to put out another episode here in the next day or two. I've been a little slacking on the episodes because it's just the end of the season. There's not a whole lot going on, but I am going to try to do more draft content here soon, especially as we get closer to the NBA lottery and we're solidifying our draft position. We're still in the top. I think we're still in the top spot, or we're tied with the Wizards right now for the worst record in the NBA. So we'll see how that shakes out, Pacer Nation. But I'm going to do another episode here soon where I talk about, I'm going to evaluate our roster going into next season and where we could possibly stand in the East next season if we, let's say we just roll with our team going into next season as is. Or I'll talk about it, how it would be if we do add a top 4 pick. So I'm going to dive into that a little bit as well and just kind of see where we would stand going into next season, because that's where we're really going to start winning it again next season, of course, Pacer Nation. But I can't thank you enough for listening, Pacer Nation, and I will talk to you soon.